Hi, I'm Jim Cameron. I want to tell you about this great new book from Insight Editions. It's called Exploring the Deep, the Titanic Expeditions. They're giving me top billing here as the writer, but really it was a collaborative effort between myself, Don Lynch, Ken Marshall, and Park Stevenson. And the four of us set out to write what we hoped would be the definitive book about our explorations of the Titanic wreck site and the great adventure that became for all of us. Just to give you an overview of what the book's about, I led 3 expeditions to the Titanic wreck in 1995, 2001, and 2005. And over the course of those 3 expeditions, I made 33 dives to the wreck and did a tremendous amount of exploration, not only exterior, as you saw in the movie Titanic, but also interior, and we built special robotic vehicles for that. And we did a tremendous amount of interior forensic and archaeological survey of the wreck. And Don Lynch, Ken Marshall, and Park Stevenson were all out there with me as exploration partners. The thing that's amazing about this book, I think, is that it's a journey, essentially the journey that the four of us took, told in the different ways that are specific to each one of us. For example, Ken Marshall is the world's leading artist of the Titanic, and many of his paintings are inside the book. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful artwork. This is a book that's very, very rich visually. Here's a perfect example here of one of Ken's paintings of the wreck with the 2 Russian Mir submersibles that we used to explore it. He even created a brand new painting for the cover that shows our 2005 expedition with our little robotic vehicles exploring the very iconic bow of the ship. I think one of the things that we're able to do with this book is not only create the ultimate sort of pictorial guide to the ship and the wreck and the way it is, but also tell the very personal story of what it is to explore Titanic, what it means emotionally and so on. And you know, we wanted this to be a very rich, beautiful book in terms of the pictures, and I think you'll find that the pictures are quite stunning. But we also wanted it to be a good read, you know, not just kind of a coffee table book with a bunch of captions, but the text, the storytelling, the narrative here, I think is actually quite engrossing. It starts for me as a young boy, way back in dreaming about being an explorer, and then it goes forward through, you know, making a film like The Abyss, and then on to doing my first deep ocean expedition for the movie Titanic, and then taking essentially many years after the making of the movie Titanic to do continued deep ocean exploration and get very, very serious about it and create our own robotic vehicles and lighting and camera systems and so on. And that's all told in this book. And one of the wonderful things about what the editors of the book, Chris Prince and Michael Madden, did was they encouraged us to be as creative as possible. And you know, we had a real vision for how we wanted this book to be between the computer graphics simulations, the archival photos, the stuff that we shot inside the ship, outside the ship, the rich imagery. But they also encourage us to bring other things to it that one might not think of. So, for example, here's a deck diagram. This is a very accurate reproduction of the actual deck diagram I had with me in the sub. And here's my printing down here that I would have written during the dive or just prior to the dive, maybe at our briefing. And some of the highlighting that I would have done just with a highlighter during the briefing before the dive, showing these are the target areas that I hope to reach with the ROV. This is E deck, and we were able to reach E deck and explore along Scotland Road, which is, you know, this is 6 decks down inside the shipwreck. So this is like going into King Tut's tomb. Very, very difficult to reach, and it required an enormous amount of planning. So the documents, the documentation that I had with me in the sub have actually been reproduced in this book. So I think the reading of the book is a very rich experience, and I think the images really support the story in an absolutely beautiful way. It's beautifully laid out. There's one section in here that I'm personally proud of, which is my dive journal. And this is a kind of moment-by-moment journal of one particular dive, which was dive 5. And it turned out to be one of the most remarkable dives that we did with our little robotic vehicles, our bots, as we called them, Jake and Elwood. and it was the first time we ever got really deep inside the ship with Jake and Elwood, and it literally goes, you know, kind of minute by minute throughout that dive, and how one wonder after another unfolded in our lights, and how nerve-wracking it was to navigate inside the ship, and the wonderful things that happen, and then it culminates with the tragedy of us losing one of the vehicles. In fact, the one that I was flying basically had a meltdown on that dive. We managed to recover Elwood on a later dive, fortunately. But you know, it's actually quite an amazing tale of adventure, and I think the human ingenuity of the engineers, and all of these disciplines coming together from marine forensics and archaeology and engineering and imaging, art, and so on, all culminate in this book, I think, in a beautiful way. The last section of the book shows our forensic conclusions, our archaeological conclusions about the wreck, how it came to be lying the way it is, and what probably happened as it sank through the water, as it broke up at the surface, and probably starting right with its collision with the iceberg. We think that it's the most accurate and detailed description that's currently available of what really happened with the disaster of the Titanic, and that's embedded within this book, and that's pretty fresh stuff too. That's the result of a big forensic panel that we put together a year and a half ago, and these results have been vetted by other experts in the Titanic field. And you may think, you know, does the world need another Titanic book? Aren't there hundreds of Titanic books? And yes, there are. And you can buy any number of very good books that'll tell you the history in minute detail of what happened to whom, and the accounts from the survivors, and the testimony, you know, at the various tribunals and so on. But there's no book like this that's ever been available, because the work that we did at the wreck is quite unique. We're the only team that ever got deep inside the wreck and did that kind of imaging. So we think that as a comprehensive overview of the whole disaster, as an exciting adventure story, as a personal journey, and as a treat for the eyes, you couldn't do better. This book is I think unique in the marketplace, and I couldn't be more pleased with the way it came out. So I can recommend it.